So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to the NAS webinar, which is about the 10th in our series now of webinars on pertinent topics that affect the nation. Thank God that now everybody's getting used to having this online public lectures, as it were, discussions. And this is on a very, very important topic. So I'm sure that all of us are looking forward to hearing the discussions today, especially given that we have the proof of the pudding, to deal with today, which is that we've talked about, power supply in Nigeria and how we can achieve uninterrupted supply. And now we have the proof, in Aba. And thankfully also we have a fellow of the academy who's behind that event, and we'll be hearing a lot more in the course of the day. But on behalf of the Nigerian Academy of Science, it's my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you. Doyin Odubanjo, the Executive Secretary of the Academy. And the Academy, of course, is the foremost independent scientific body in Nigeria, and not just in, but also speaks and represents the Academy globally, on scientific matters. And the primary purpose is to develop or promote the development of science in country. That's the mission of the academy. And secondly, to push for evidence-informed policy making and implementation in Nigeria. So we trust that this is one of the ways by which we do that, is ensuring that everybody is well informed in the public. And by so doing, we also ensure that people are able to hold our policymakers accountable for the kind of policies that we pursue in the country. So my time is against me, and I'll encourage you to please go to our website, www.nas.org.org, to hear all the things that I didn't say, or to read all the things I didn't say there. And I'll just right away hand over to the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, Professor Ekanem Braid, for our own quick opening remarks. Over to you, ma.
Thank you. Good morning, all. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this webinar, which, as you have been told, is the 10th in our series on topical issues. Our dear country, Nigeria, is endowed with abundance of human and natural resources. Yet, it is plagued with problems that significantly inhibit socioeconomic development. One of such problems is power supply, and that is the subject of this webinar today. Serious interruptions in power supply have negatively affected the lives of Nigerians in every aspect. We are all familiar with the joyous screams of NEPA when electricity is restored. Even children in Nigeria are familiar with words and acronyms like National Grid Collapse, Transformer Breakdown, Low Current, Metering, Megawatts, Gencos and Discos and all that. We will agree that Nigeria has all that it takes to have uninterrupted power supply from all available sources, renewable and non-renewable. We have 263 universities, 84 polytechnics in Nigeria, churning out thousands of engineers annually. We also have a lot of research going on. Researchers in tertiary institutions and research institutes produce research outputs relevant to solution of this problem we have. Therefore, our dear country has no excuse sustaining this problem. It is, however, pleasing to note that moves are being made. Even as at last night, I listened to the news and I could see that governments at all levels and also the private sector are trying to tackle this problem, which hopefully will be resolved in the near future. The webinar is hosted today by NAS, and it is aimed at having a conversation on how Nigeria can achieve uninterrupted power supply. This sits well with NAS' vision of an improved quality of life for the Nigerian society, because that's what is desirable, and that is what we should do, achieve to make the deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals. It is pleasing to note that a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science has made a significant move towards contributing to the resolution of power supply problem in our country. If we have pockets of such initiatives across the country, then a lot will change in a short time. We are privileged to have Professor Barth Nnaji, a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science, to talk us through the Aba Integrated Power Project, particularly we refer to it as a new dawn in Eastern Nigeria. We are grateful to Prof for taking out time from his very, very busy schedule to be here with us today. We also have Professor Abubakar Sambo, FAS, President-elect of NAS. He takes over next year, January. He will give us an insight into renewable energy possibilities for our country. Let me end by giving the assurance that the Nigerian Academy of Science, in line with our mandate, will continue to assist government and private sector in addressing national problems that can be solved by application of science, technology, and innovation. It promises to be a rewarding afternoon, moderated by Professor Bamidele Olu-Owolabi, another fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science. I wish you all a pleasant experience at this webinar. Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma. I think we'll just hand over to Professor Olu-Owolabi, FAS, to continue the moderation. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good morning, everyone. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is one of the most populous country and the fast-growing populations in the world. Nigeria is also the largest economy on the continent of Africa. All these have culminated into increasing demand for energy. Nigeria is also endowed with natural resources, among which are the renewable energy resources like solar, hydropower, wind, biomass, and municipal waste. In spite of all this, only 1/10 of the population have access to epileptic and erratic supply of energy from the national grid. No wonder the World Bank ranked Nigeria as the world's worst country with regards to access to electricity. We cannot continue with this narration. There must be a paradigm shift. So this team, Pathway to Uninterrupted Power Supply in Nigeria, is coming at an auspicious time where the resources at our disposal should be harnessed to light up the country. I believe our panelists are ready to show us the way forward. First on the list is Professor Barth Nnaji FAS. Is the founder and chairman, Geometric Power Limited, the pioneer private power company in Nigeria. A professor of mechanical and industrial engineering, University of Massachusetts, United States of America. William Kempler Whitford Professor of Engineering and former ACAO Foundation Professor of Engineering, University of Pittsburgh, United States of America. He served as Federal Minister of Science and Technology in 1993, Federal Minister of Power 2011 to 2012, Special Advisor to the President of Nigeria on Power 2010 to 2011, Pioneer Chairman, Presidential Task Force on Power from June 2010 to July 2011, and founding president, Independent Power Producer Association of Nigeria. Professor Nnaji developed and implemented the roadmap for power reform in Nigeria, as well as privatization of the government monopoly power holding company of Nigeria, PHCN, while serving as Minister of Power. He's a three-time recipient of national honors, Office of the Order of Nigeria, ON, Commander of the Order of Nigeria, CON, and Nigerian National Order of Merit, NNOM. He received the U.S. Secretary of State Distinguished Public Service Award in 1995 and the West African Power Industries Lifetime Achievement Award for 2014. He will be discussing the theme on this webinar from this topic, the Aba Integrated Power Project, a new dawn in Eastern Nigeria. The second panelist is Professor Chidi Akufo, FAS, a professor of physics at the Federal University of Technology, Owerri. He started his academic career in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and had with different institutions and universities across Nigeria and Europe. Professor Akujo is a recipient of Commonwealth Trust Fellowship and Humboldt Fellowships, Germany. He has served the university system in different capacities as director, head of department, and briefly as vice chancellor at Imo State University, Owerri. Professor Akujo's research interests are in astrophysics and energy technology, with emphasis on energy management, renewable energy, and environmental sustainability. We cannot have other panelists than these ones. They have all it takes to discuss this theme. Before the first speaker comes up, we have this announcement for the audience. Use the question and answer feature to send your questions, not the chat box. After the presentations, your questions will be read and directed to the appropriate speaker. Join me in welcoming the first speaker, Dr. Barth, Professor Barth Nnaji. Sir, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. First, let me thank my colleagues and friends in the Nigerian Academy of Science. The President, thank you very much. We continue to appreciate the good work being done by the Academy in reshaping our country. Let me now begin this story. You asked me to talk about the Geometric Power project, a new dawn in Eastern Nigeria. I think it's more of really a new dawn in Nigeria, because the project is the first such project in Nigeria, in that it has integration of the generation and distribution all working together, and it is semi-autonomous in that it operates off the grid, but can be connected to the grid to take power or export power to the grid, and that was the model. So this project started a long time ago, 2004, when President Obasanjo's government made an MOU with Geometric Power, and then in 2005 we signed a substantive agreement for it. The project actually came before the unbundling of NEPA. So it was in fact NEPA and the federal government that signed the agreement with Geometric Power. And so we actually are the first power company, private power company in Nigeria. We learned something when we did a power project in Abuja, a small power plant, 22 megawatts, guaranteeing 15 megawatts to NEPA. It was NEPA that we did the agreement with in 2000. And the project was commissioned in 2001. But that power project injected its power locally. It injected the power into central area of Abuja. So we provided power to the Federal Secretariat, to the Presidency, to NNPC, all those places. So what it showed was that if we have the fuel, that we could supply power reliably 24/7. And that's how it was for the period it provided power, 2001 to 2004. The project was a small contract project that was to provide power to that area while they were building Shiroro power line from Shiroro hydropower to Abuja. And so when it was completed, then the project ended. But it proved that point that if you ring fence an area, inject power into it or embed power into it, that you could have reliability. It's not really, I mean, it should be intuitive for that to happen. But the fact that we were able to show it was very important. So as a result, in 2004, the president of the World Bank and came to Nigeria and went to Aba with the then Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and they invited me along, and we went there, and they went to the famous Ariaria market, and at the market they asked the industrialists producing leather products what's their number one need, for which, if done, would give them the best push forward in production. So they said electricity. All they need is electricity. If you give them electricity, that they would be able to produce reliably 24/7. So then they said to me, that is Dr. Okonjo-Iweala and the president of the World Bank, Wolferson, that it's over to me. So that's how we started the project. We decided that there was really, it's going to be important not to have interruptible power, but to design uninterruptible power. And so we said, okay, we know that if we go to the presidency and ask for sovereign guarantee to do this power project, that they would hesitate. And so we said, let us find a formula that will be such that we don't ask the government for much, except something that we could have control over. And that was how we came to the concept of, you give us a territory, we ring fence the territory, we take over the network there, and essentially being responsible for supply of electricity there. And then it's the story of in our area, the story of the dog and the bone and the spirits. He says, the good dog said, throw the bone to me and just leave me to fight it out with the spirit. So when you see a dog fighting with the bone, you know that it is fighting with because it fights furiously. It's fighting with the spirit, which you can't see. But anyway, we figured that if we were to go to Aba and build this, and we just be responsible for collecting the revenue directly and not have to be dependent on some others. You see, up until today, till now, there's no other project that has that structure, and I'll talk more about it. All other projects, you have Genco supplying power through the transmission power to bulk buyer of power, and the bulk power invests a certain quantum of power to the discos. That's how it works today, and it's primarily because the discos are not credit worthy to buy the power and pay for it. So that if the government wasn't the middleman in the process, they will, in fact, they will all go out of business because the entire value chain will collapse. So, but in this particular case, company, but the regulator set it up that there must be a separation, arms dealing, long arms dealing in the process where you have the generation selling power to the distribution company. So even though the holding company, Geometric Power Group, owns majority interest in the two companies, but really they are independent companies. The structure is that you have a generation company, Geometric Power Aba Limited, we call it GPAL, and Aba Power, APL Electric Limited, which we call Aba Power for short. That's the distribution company. So those two companies constitute what we call Aba Integrated Power Project, Aba IPP. But Aba IPP has other projects, like we have a 27-kilometer gas pipeline that we built to go from NNPC now, which used to be Shell, to our power plant to supply gas directly. We also have brand new substations to strengthen the network of Aba. The privatization in Nigeria was done so that the companies that buy the discos would be able to do what we've done in Aba, which is if you paid, say, $100 million to buy the disco from government, it is likely that to make the system work, you will invest up to $500 million, 5 times that much or more, to strengthen the network. In the case of Aba, we invested about 8 times the amount to strengthen the network, building new substations, new power lines, and so on, to strengthen the distribution company. And we are aggressively doing metering there. So let me now talk about the lessons learned from the project. Number one is the business model, which I talked about, that it is semi-autonomous disco with embedded power plant. The power plant is 180, currently 141 megawatts. It's licensed for 188. We have done civil works for the remaining 47 megawatts, so to bring it to 188 megawatts. Now, the idea is that Aba doesn't need 188 megawatts yet, but it will. We have built this 141, knowing that the maximum power so far, peak power so far recorded in Aba is about 100 megawatts. But we think that as we continue to grow, soon, within a year, we should eclipse the 141 megawatts. But we are poised to put in place another 47 megawatts. And we're also poised to make it a combined cycle. We should bring it to more than getting close to 300 megawatts. The whole idea is that Aba should never lack power going forward, as long as there is gas, So back to the business model. A semi-autonomous disco with embedded power plant. Project financed, which means that the project stands on its own with the assets. So the way it works is that you give the banks the asset until you finish paying them off. So they practically own the assets, the banks. This is as opposed to that you brought the cash complete to pay for it. And so this is the best way to do projects, large scale projects like that. This would be including even the Dangote refinery would be project financed like that. So that's how it's done. Another one that is so important in the model is no sovereign guarantee. Like I said, if we had gone to government to say, please give us sovereign guarantee, they would be thinking twice. So, but cleverly, the government agreed with us and gave us a territory, which is in Aba, 9 local governments, of which this is the business area of the region, really. 9 local governments supplying power to more than 3 million people, and industries and businesses included. Excess power goes to national grid. So until the power is fully consumed, we invested heavily in infrastructure, as I mentioned, new substations and new power lines, and metering to significantly reduce the average technical collection and commercial losses. Because in fact, the privatization done in Nigeria was done in such a way that there was no bidding on the price of the asset. The asset was simply given to you at price. And then you have to bid on how much you will invest and how well you will invest in reduction of losses. Because it is the losses that continuously make it difficult for people to get power. You have to improve the technicals, the technical system. You have to improve the collection system and the commercial system, which is the ATC and C loss reduction. We built the 27-kilometer gas pipeline, which really has been very, very helpful in bringing gas directly to us. So we have a meter, we put a metering station at Owaza, where Shell gas processing system used to exist. Now it is controlled by Nigerian National Petroleum. But so there's a metering station there, and the gas comes through to our gas and is metered again at our power plant. So, but we can't say that we didn't meet a number of challenges on the way. First, in 2008, while we were in the middle of construction, we met financial meltdown. So the funds the banks had approved for the project, they couldn't release anymore. So that was the effect of the financial meltdown. And so we stayed till 2010 when one of the banks started financing the project again. So that was a major problem. But then when we had 95% completed the project by end of 2012, we would have commissioned in 2013. But that ring fence that was concession to our company was now sold by the Bureau of Public Enterprises. So basically, a number of people colluded to sell that along, to sell that to people who purchased Enugu Disco. And I won't get into all the people who did this, but it was maliciously done. That's the most I could say about it. And what it did was that it stalled the project from coming on stream for 9 years. It was the most difficult period in the lives of all of us who were involved in the project, having invested hundreds of millions of dollars in the project and having to see it like that. Many people think the project started when after I was minister. In fact, the project was completed before I went into government. So in fact, it was a very difficult decision for me to go into government at that point, knowing fully well that it would probably just slow down the project, but I didn't count on the fact that it would project would have vested interests come into it. We have, there's always threat by people who are in government of introducing competition with private companies, and it's a very serious threat in the country, especially with the new law, the new act that was the new act, the Electricity Act. What it does is that it makes states believe they have power to build electricity assets. There was never a time the states didn't have power to build electricity assets. In fact, the river states and Akwa Ibom built power plants because it's a very serious capital-intensive undertaking. So those two states were able to build power plants, but quickly found that they couldn't run the power plants. And in fact, River State privatized their own. Akwa Ibom is on the verge of doing something, either concession or privatize, because there's no, and they built very big power plants. Other states had not been able to do that because it's a very capital intensive. So it's one of the things that we have to keep advising, that partnership with private sector is the way forward in terms of being able to realize the benefits of the new act, which empowers states to regulate power within their states. So we also have, we met conflict of interest in gas supply, whereby with the change in ownership of the OML 11 and OML 17 that Shell was to use to supply us, the new gas supplier also owns a power plant, and there's no gas in Nigeria. There's not enough gas anyway to supply all the power plants. It's a very, 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 very serious situation. How serious? Even the Nigeria NLNG, which exports liquefied natural gas outside the country, is not operating at full capacity because there's no gas. And then domestic operations like the power plants are not able to operate to full capacity. So all the power projects in Nigeria are suffering because of lack of gas. But the irony of the whole thing is that this is a country that is said it's more of a gas country than an oil country. We're a major oil producer in the world, but the NNPC says that we have 209 TCF of trillion cubic feet of gas. That is proven. Another source, NLNG magazine, says we have about 625 TCF. If we have 625 TCF, that will put us in serious competition with the United States in terms of gas reserve. But how come we have all that and we're not able to produce? Because we are not investing in it. It's a serious problem at this point, because without, in fact, 70 to 80% of all the power plants in Nigeria run on natural gas. And I would predict that for next 2 decades at least, that most of the power plants in Nigeria will be gas-fired. If that is the case, then it behooves a nation that is serious to invest seriously in gas supply and gas infrastructure. That's a major problem right now. So the other thing is foreign exchange challenges. Everybody knows that. Collapse of foreign exchange, the naira value depreciation affects project development very seriously. Because all these power plants, we don't make the components to support the power plants. We buy them from abroad, and so we have to pay in foreign currency. And this is continuous to maintain the power plants. For this reason, many of the power plants in Nigeria are not producing to full capacity, just because of this. You can see the challenges. Then you also have cost reflective tariff. So which means that the way power works is that you are supposed to be able to recover the cost of investment over a period. And the regulator knows that that's what you have to do, and then charge a small margin, because it's a mass product, mass component. But there is no, even when they're talking about the new Band A, everybody now knows about Band A. Band A is actually not cost reflective. It's just a way to try to begin to inch up and reduce subsidy, so that the government is not continuously subsidizing power. Then the other one is the human issues that we've met in Aba. Power theft. This is a very clever environment. A lot of people know how to do things. So if they are not bypassing their meters, for those who have meters, some are directly going in the evening to the power line and connect to their place. So you have to have eyes around your head in order to be able to survive power theft. But the one that's really bad also is vandalism. People just go to vandalize power installations. And this is not about only, it's countrywide. So this issue of power theft and vandalism is countrywide. But it is something that the states, now that they are regulators, they can have regulation. And of course, the National Assembly and the Regulatory Commission, matter of fact, the National Assembly can make law against power theft, very strong power theft law and vandalism law, so that there can be mobile courts to address this sort of issue. And you have collusion by workers and customers. So a worker can come and say, well, I will show you how you can bypass your meter or make it run slower. And then you get a full benefit of, better benefit of this, the power. So this is cheating the power company. The power company must pay for gas, must pay for maintenance, and then you're dashing the power out there to your own benefit, because then they pay you money and you put in your pocket. That's what some workers do. Now, but it's not sufficient that you just sack the worker. There should be penalty associated with that. Now, what's the outcome of ABBA? But we would say that we have been successful in showing that it's possible to deliver reliable electricity. Being the first disco in Nigeria to deliver reliable electricity is it's a major thing. So we have been able to have proof of concept of the model that we initiated in 2004. I always say that you have to be able to say there is no place where it's written on the forehead of Nigeria, thou shalt not have reliable electricity. So we want to be able to say Nigeria can indeed have reliable electricity. And we like to also be able to say that in all these years, including after the stall, we were able to get international refinancing of the project, that it is because of the design, the integrity of the people who built the project, that is those of us who are in it, and the quality of design and perseverance of the workers with a good business plan that made investors come back to invest to complete the project. And we really appreciate that. Finally, let me make a point. Southern Italy, and this is about the country and the importance of doing everything to remove vested interests operating in the system, because with vested interests, you can't really be able to do anything, because it afflicts everywhere. Southern Italy enjoyed for many years the reputation of the third world of Europe because of its development crisis. This was because the people accommodated, rewarded, and protected terrible vices like nepotism, violent crime, and such criminal organizations as the mafia. This was, however, not the case in central and northern Italy, where the people and various government agencies fought the criminal groups. Finance and investments consequently fled the South on an industrial scale. Social values trump economic growth and shape societal progress. Societal progress reduces crime, instability, and mass disaffection to the minimum. Societal progress promotes stability, peace, and harmony. When those in authority embrace the system's thinking, they will realize it is in their own enlightened best interest to work for the public good rather than work for their private benefits. Private benefits are always short-term but produce long-term grave consequences. So, my dear fellows of the Academy of Science, I think maybe I've provided some food for thought about the Geometric Power Project, and as well as what the benefits are for the country and what we can do to help to progress our dear country. I should now give you the floor to make your comments on the issues raised in this presentation and ask questions. Thank you very much.
We can take question and answer now. Question and answer, but there is no question in the question and answer drop box here. So, Dr. Odubajo, what are we going to do?
Well, people may also indicate if they can by raising their hands. And then,
all right.
I'm not sure if that works on the Teams, but I think it should. If they raise their hands, they will be allowed to speak on their mic of the group.
All right. Okay. I believe we can all hear that. If you have questions, just raise your hand and we will call you so that you can speak.
Oh, I think somebody just wrote something that it looks like they have to sign into the email to be able to use that. So they want to just write.
Okay.
Can they just write the questions directly here? So I think that should be okay. They should just write in the chat if they can.
Okay. You can write your questions on the chat. At least you can use the chat without signing in. Okay, Professor Kayode Ijadwola, you can speak. Can you hear me? Professor Kayode Ijadwola raised his hand. Professor Kayode Ijadwola, you are recognized.
He's muted.
Okay.
He can speak now. He can try.
Okay. Have I been unmuted?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you to the Academy for this. I was quite interested when I received this in my mailbox. I currently serve as the Vice Chancellor of a private university in Nigeria. And I can tell you there is no greater challenge that many of us that run institutions have other than power. You're struggling on how to power the university, hostels, academic area, lecture rooms, laboratories, and the power is so unstable. We just got given brand A when we get only 5 hours a day. My question is, Professor Nnaji, how affordable are independent power projects for institutions to start one of their own? I've been talking to at least 2 different organizations in the last 3 months to give me both a technical and a financial proposal, to even think to see whether we can start an independent power project of ours. One of them gave me a consultancy fee, not even to build the plant, but a consultancy fee of 5 phases of the work they need to do to build the farm. And the consultancy fee alone is 60 million naira. So I wonder how much the power plant will cost eventually and whether we'll ever be able to afford it. So my question is this. This is a good idea. It's worthy of emulation and praise and all that, but how affordable? Because if consultancy alone will cost me 60 million, I wonder how much they'll ask me to bring to build an IPP. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Let me let me praise you for even trying to go on the journey, or thinking of how to go on the journey. The fact is that to build a power plant, do them, then put it back. Sorry, to build a power plant, you have a development process, and typically it could take anywhere from well, depending on the size of the project, it could take 1 to 2 years to develop the project, sometimes up to 3. What is it that's going on during this development? You have to design the project. You have to design the power plant, okay? And it must be very, very well done. And that design takes time and costs money to do. You have to go to get the site studies done, environmental and different phases of environmental, and you have to do part of the environmental is dry season and rainy season studies. So that takes you 1 year to really complete, at the very least 1 year to complete the environmental studies. If you're going to get financing done, usually it must be done via equator principles, which is must be done with using World Bank acceptable standard. That costs a lot of money, takes time. You now have to do technical. You have technical design. You have financial. You're going to need financial advisor. Typically, one group will not be enough in doing a power project. It depends on the size anyway. So you have financial advisor. Then you have technical advisor. You have environmental advisor. You have many lawyers come into the picture, but you know, because it's a university project, it won't require too much of all these things. But it depends on where you're getting your money. If your money is going to be from budget, which I doubt if you can do the project via budget like that, it's going to be quite significant still. The costs is this, Prof. 1 megawatt of power in Nigeria, if it is gas-fired, costs $1.3 million to $1.5 million, 1 megawatt. Now, if it is solar, it's a little more. But, you know, you can have a mix of some solar and use industrial power coming from the DISCO to be able to augment power in your university. But it is not costly to do it. I can tell you that for power projects like ours, you would have spent many millions of dollars. In fact, we developed a second project in collaboration with General Electric, Oma Power, for 500 megawatts. And that power project, we've spent more than $10 million to develop, and you would not have broken ground. Another company is building that same thing, an oil company in Nigeria, spent close to $30 million, and you won't see anything. You just have not broken ground. So people would not see. It's just a whole bunch of paper documents, hundreds of documents to do a project of the nature. So, Prof, I think the 16 million is actually cheap, because if you, let's say 16 million in dollar is not a whole lot of money. And I doubt very much if they will be able to do all the aspects of the design, the technical design, the environmental, the financial, the legal. Lawyers alone, legal fees alone for projects of the type we've done, minimum $5 million for legal fees. So, and that's just part of development. You haven't at that time built something. So it costs a lot. That's why, when states are trying to get into it, we just are looking at them and we say, okay, we would like progress. And government people don't do things without wanting some change, so something to take out of it. And you can't do power development with that kind of mindset. So, Prof, I would say that it is possible to do, but to do, ask, based on what I've just told you, ask the person giving you that proposal, what really does it cover? So that you're able to know whether it covers from end to end, and what guarantee you're going to get that it will work. How many megawatts would your university need? Because power audit is also important in doing it. You need power audit so that you know the total requirement of power for your university. Thank you. I've given you a very long response to your question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for answering that. Are there other questions? You can just raise your hand and we'll call you.
Actually, Ma, there are questions in the chat box.
Okay.
I think we have up to 3 questions.
All right. So I can read. Thank you. The first one is from Mustafa Saliu. Professor Barth Nnaji deserves commendation for his unyielding effort in seeing the ABBA project coming to Sussex. He mentioned that 8 times of the initial project was spent improving the network. I want to know whether an estimate was made of this amount and built into the business plan before the start of the project.
Yes, the answer is yes.
All right.
That's also part of that plan. It's called a bankable business plan. And international banks will look at that and know, because they have experience, to be able to interpret your plan. And it should be so transparent that they can touch and feel that it will work. So the costs of doing refurbishing, we hired a group, very experienced group from the US, to come and do that study, to redesign the network in Aba, integrating the one that exists, to now say, yes, this is what you need to install. Aba had 3 substations, 2 by 15 MVA. We had to build 4 new for just the disco. So you can imagine, and then we built over 140 kilometers of power line, mostly at 33 kV. So these things cost a lot of money. That's the investment we're talking about. So, and it had to be done before you get finance. That's before you get finance. And that's the investment required to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The second question is, power plants across the nation are not producing to full capacity. Could it be that distribution lines meant for this purpose need upgrading? If yes, whose responsibility is it to upgrade these lines? Okay,
these are 2, you've gone to 2 different places now, power lines versus the power plant. The whole purpose of upgrading the power plant, of privatizing the power plant, was so that the buyers will upgrade them, recover non-functioning units. That was the reason why we did that. However, for you to recover, if you invest in recovering units, then you have to be able to sell power to recover your investment. And right now, because of gas, because of payment, non-payment, they are not able to recover. So they are not producing enough. So the production is not merely about the power line. The power line is another issue, which is the transmission line network. The transmission network has very serious challenge. It's not able to function in the way that it's supposed to function. Requirement of power for your university. Thank you. I've given you a very long response to your question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for answering that. Are there other questions? You can just raise your hand and we'll call you.
There's a question for Professor Nnaji. It says, what is the solution to the issue of gas flaring in Nigeria and appropriate pricing of electricity? That wasn't addressed.
Okay, thank you very much, Blessing. The gas flaring, yes, there's a law on gas flaring. We haven't achieved complete flare-outs in Nigeria, and this is so important. And so the good thing about the law is that when gas is not being flared, that it is being channeled for use. It's so power companies, fertilizer companies, even Nigeria liquefied natural gas can benefit from that. So it's a win-win situation to have flare out. Why is it that they are flaring? Well, when oil is being produced, there is gas that comes with it. It's called associated gas. And that associated gas can either be piped for use or can be flared. So if it's either that some of it is re-injected back into the place, but just not all of it. So the one that's not being reused gets to be flared or piped. So if you now imagine producing gas in the middle of the ocean, where oil is produced, so the associated gas a lot of times get flared. But it's possible, like in Akwa Ibom area, they're beginning to offshore. They're beginning to pipe the gas back to shore. But you have to have enough gas pipeline to now transport the gas to the appropriate locations. So there's, because of the law, if a company producing gas, we're producing oil, is to flare the gas, it must get permission from the government, from the regulator, to have a flare period because of situation. For example, recently the Trans-Niger the pipeline got busted. So if they were to continue to produce oil, they will have to have permission to flare gas. So that is one. In terms of the pricing is regulated. Like geometric power project, we don't just have pricing of power that is outside of the regulation. So the regulator regulates us, and it's very important that we are not doing something that is outside of what is national, and that's how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Professor Okoro, you are recognized. Professor Okoro, I hope you are not muted. So before he comes up, I will read another question. Metering is an issue. How best could the metering of houses be done so that discos could generate more income so that a lot of houses will not cheat on the discos? Sir.
Okay, yes. Metering is extremely important in the business. And at Geometric Power, we take it very seriously. And we have what we call mass metering project, where we are inviting metering companies to come to be part of metering and get revenue, make some money in doing the business. So, but they have to, because metering, it's too expensive. To meter Aba will cost probably close to 35 billion naira to do. And you know, it's not something you want to just carry like that. But we want to see a way that we will get metering companies to partner with us. And in fact, they are doing it. Right now, we since we started, we took over full control of our barring fest in about a year plus now. We've metered getting close to 50,000 we've done close to 50, actually 47,000. So that is how it is supposed to work. The metering is I look at it as the contract between, or the agreement between the supplier of electricity and the consumer of electricity. And it removes all the any kind of problem that you can find in the place. So no real argument, really. So it also helps you in terms of managing your consumption, because your eyes must be on how much you're actually paying each time that you buy power. So that's that.
Professor Okoro, please can you unmute Professor Okoro?
He should be able to speak.
Yes. Good afternoon, ma. And I am calling from University of Ilorin, where I'm a professor in medicine. I was at the last conference of the academy where I made a presentation on COVID-19. I want to thank the organizers of this webinar and Professor Barth Nnaji for your presentation. And I want to also say that by your own personal effort, you have demonstrated the high integrity and moral standard required of academics. I recall in 2012, you were Minister of Power, and the lay press reported you as having resigned your appointment because you insisted on technical expertise and financial integrity for those who were going to take over the discos in the privatization process. We have now spent a lot of money, and we are now nearly 12 years later, and you have been vindicated. My question is this: do you think it is a good strategy for the current government to now put its money?
Sorry, Prof, we're no longer hearing you. Do I think? Professor Okoro? Prof, it looks like we're missing the punchline, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Could you think that the government should put in the money? I don't know where the money is going. That was what he was trying to.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let me just say, okay, I think he's back. Prof.
Yes. As I was saying, I'm from, despite my name, I'm Ijo, that's my ethnic group, and I'm from Niger Delta. Most of our houses have been destroyed by flaring of this gas.
Yes.
My question to you is this. I mean, you have shown by your own doggedness that you have the right values that is needed in leadership in Nigeria. We are all suffering, including myself, because I want to pay for electricity, but I can't have it. The question is this: should we be talking of affordability? If power supply, electricity supply is a business, those who are running the business, they need to recover their costs to stay in business. Number one. Number two, should the government actually now be thinking of putting its money to aid those who are in the business to meter all Nigerians? And should those who were in 2012, when you resigned, not called to account for their actions? I know this present government is trying to, review the privatization process, and it has even promised in the lay press that it will revoke some licenses. My question is, do you please want to comment on this?
Yes.
I don't think
Prof.
I don't think Nigeria doesn't have the expertise. We have the expertise, but our value system is completely warped. And I regret to tell you that even our own university system.
Our time is going. Can you allow him to answer?
Exonerate themselves. No, I want to finish so that you can answer it comprehensively. We all think about these things privately, but we don't like talking about them openly. And I think we should. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that you understood the reason why I resigned, because I was insisting on two things, very simple, but very important things for Nigeria, that you have to have technical capacity and financial capacity to be able to purchase an asset. And more recently, one of my colleagues at that time, the former Minister of National Planning, when I was Minister of Power, Shamsuddin Usman, came out and said that they sold the asset to themselves. And that's exactly what I knew was going to happen, and I didn't want to be part of it. So that's on that. Now, as to whether the government should put its money in metering, I totally agree. There's actually a small program which they are trying to do in collaboration with the World Bank to do metering, but it's not enough because Nigeria needs millions of meters. And if you multiply, let's say that you're even just talking about single phase meters, not three phase meters, and it's about 140,000 naira going as things continue to go up. That thing used to be about 60,000, 70,000 naira just about a year and a half ago, but now it's doubled. So if you multiply that by the number of meters required, I don't know the number now, but I know at least you need at least 3 million meters in Nigeria, maybe even more. And so if you multiply that, you can see how exorbitant the cost is. But the government can help in that. And I believe that the discourse will not be asking to receive the meters free. I know my company, we won't ask for free meters. We are saying, give us the meters, we pay back government over time. And that's actually what I have now gotten meter suppliers in effect to be doing. But it's not enough. We need that kind of huge government step in to do it. So finally, in terms of calling those people to account, I think Nigeria doesn't do that kind of thing. That is, they don't call people to account. So it is highly unlikely that people who have done all the damage will ever be brought to book. So we just move on. For me and our company, we keep looking forward that we survived. We didn't all die in the process because the president, Jonathan, when he came in 2015 and saw what was going on, he said, that I have lion heart, that anybody who built the sort of thing that we built, and they were still talking about it in this way, that he would have, he could have had a heart attack. So, but God didn't, God supported us, and we didn't all perish in the process. But it is the sort of thing that happens in Nigeria, that you come out to do very good for your country, and you meet this sort of thing. It's unfortunate.
Thank you. Blessing, can I still read the two questions on the... Hello?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Okay, yes. Two questions. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then we, yeah. Sir, if these gases can be piped for us to make use of it in our homes, industries, and office, why flaring them or allowing it to cause pollution in the environment? Maybe I should read the second question before.
No. Just sorry. Can I just address this one first?
Okay. All right.
It's cheaper and easier for them to flare, okay. So they don't have to do anything. It's cheaper. It's just like.
Are you sure? What about environmental degradation, sir?
Well,
is it really cheaper at the long run?
That's the point. I said it's cheaper because the cost is not much for them, and easier. So it's just like somebody who decides, well, a company that is doing pollution and decides, okay, what is the cost? What would be the penalty by government? They say, oh, it's this amount. Then they say, okay, what's the cost of cleaning up? Then they see that the cost of cleaning up is so high. They say, okay, let me just do this one. And that's what a lot of the oil companies are doing. And it is causing enormous damage in the region. And so this, it will take decades to get the waters and the environment to become what they used to be, a beautiful, natural environment that used to exist. But they have polluted them. So the government has to be more aggressive in ensuring that there is no flaring. This flare out is sustained. So,
thank you. The last question, is there a national grid operator? If so, does he have any power over the geometric power project area?
There is a national grid operator, and the national grid operator operates from Oshobo. So that's the National Control Center. And yes, it has, we have grid code in the country. So every power generator that puts power on the grid must respect that grid code. Which means that if national control tells you not to put your power on the grid, you must not. If it says you put the power on the grid or a certain quantum, that's what you do. So geometric power is part of that, but except that, like I said, much of the time we are operating autonomously. So we are not at that particular point controlled by the national grid code, or rather national control center. So that's that.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
From all that have been said, it appears there is no easy way to road to freedom, but we must be free.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah. On behalf of the President of Nigerian Academy of Science, Professor Eken Ipe Braid, I express my sincere gratitude to our amazing panelists, Professor Barth Nnaji FAS and Professor Chidi Akujo FAS, who share their knowledge and expertise with us on these topics. These insightful presentations were truly thought-provoking, and I believe we have all gleaned from their wealth of experience. I would like to thank the team who worked tirelessly behind the scene to make sure that everything ran smoothly. Your hard work and dedication have been invaluable. Last but not the least, I want to thank each and every one of you for being an engaging audience. Your participation and thoughtful questions have made this webinar truly interactive. Thank you so much. God bless.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Very much,
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you.